What is up, everybody?
And welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 302. And today, friends, we have kind of an OG episode for you guys.
Yeah, you've been asking for it.
Yes.
And we've been waiting for it.
Yes, which I just kind of wanted to make a little note about that. I've responded to people in the comments because there's so many people that are like, oh, I miss when you guys would really like deep dive into, can I even say the C word here on YouTube these days?
The C word.
Not that C word.
Damn.
Not see you
not
next
that
Tuesday. I'm talking about Vonspiracy.
Oh, yeah, you can say conspiracy.
Can I?
Yeah.
Well, because now they're like banning it.
No, you just can't talk about certain conspiracies on YouTube.
Well, apparently, I mean, they have cracked down. The reason that we have strayed away from a lot of these topics is because over the years, YouTube has cracked down majorly. I mean, they took, 46 videos down off of my channel recently?
Yeah, some of ours as well from the past.
Oh, some of we got hit too?
Yeah.
Great. Yep. Just no warning, just 46 of them, even stupid things like the Kardashian conspiracies, right? That one went down.
Yep.
Come on. Just the word itself. So yeah, unfortunately, I feel like I need to explain this to people. It's not that we're not interested in those things anymore. We've always liked to kind of look at some of those and like give an unbiased take and kind of, sometimes it was debunking or sometimes we believe them.
It's hard because we put a ton of time into these episodes, and to have your work taken down or censored or whatever it may be.
Well, not
sucks.
only that, but it's like puts our whole show at risk.
Right.
Because we could be, 3 strikes and you're out on this bitch.
That's true. Pretty
So,
cutthroat these days. So
yeah. But I wanted people to understand that it's not us. That's not a decision that we made to completely bail on a lot of that. But there are some things today that we wanted to talk about, and this is much more, like I said, an OG episode, because we're going to be talking about some ancient unsolved mysteries, a little bit of conspiracy.
Definitely some.
I'm scared to even say it now.
It's all right. I'll say it for you.
Okay.
Some conspiracies around places such as the Library of Alexandria, which I've mentioned many times over the years.
We have mentioned
and
it
have
so
never
many times.
actually covered in detail. And so today we're going to be covering that amongst a bleeding house in Atlanta.
Yes.
Real life monster house, basically.
Not only that, we're going to be diving into the Vatican a little bit.
Secret archives. What's going on down there? And a potential connection between Library of Alexandria to the Vatican Secret Archives. So
I think we have 4 topics total in this episode. This is kind of, if some of you OG fans out there will remember our Ponder Sesh days where we do like a smorgasbord. Didn't I just say this on another episode? It's Borg. No?
it's
Smorgasbord?
No,
It's a board.
it's a board.
Okay, well, we're doing a
Smorgasbord
of content. 4 different topics, stories, interesting things to kind of dive into today and have a little fun with. I mean, some of it's pretty serious, but a lot of it, there's some pretty whack theories, I would say, but they could be true.
Well, I think the other thing too is this. I know for me personally, there's a lot of things I didn't know, like factual things about the Library of Alexandria, because a lot of these kind of mystical places and places that have conspiracies around them, there's a lot of misinformation that's put out there, especially on social media, TikTok, places like that, where people just are spouting the most like popular theories when there's
as if they're facts.
As if they're facts when they're just theories. And
but they could be true.
True. Some of it could be true. And there's also some historical evidence to debunk some of those theories as well. So taking a very logical look at all these things while also being open-minded to all the possibilities.
Yeah.
Is the way we do things now.
Yeah, that is. That's the way we do things now. Well, anyway, before we get into all of that, I am Kendall, your host, and this is my amazing husband and co-host, Josh.
Thank you. We just celebrated 8 years of marriage.
We did just celebrate 8 years of marriage. We're heading to 14 years together.
Crazy to think that most of those years have been podcasting together.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Because we've been at this show for almost 6 years.
And even when we're not podcasting, we're like doing a podcast together every night that no one ever hears. Because we never stop talking.
Nope. It just continues on and on.
There's a prairie dog inside the building.
What?
Ran into our office?
Yeah. Cindy goes, there's a prairie dog inside the front area. It's just kind of
I want to see it.
I know.
Can we just take a quick second?
Okay,
I have to see a prairie dog.
I know it's probably really cute. Don't let the dogs out there though, because they'll probably.
All right, now I got to see it.
Yeah, I know. That's how I'm feeling.
He's like, shut the fuck up.
Everyone's sitting there, he's like, dude, no.
There's one in Ian's arm too.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, and then we have another very exciting announcement. We actually just had to, I should announce this too. We just had a prairie dog in the office. All of us just had to go up and see him. Anyway.
But what's the real announcement? These people are like, what are
Okay.
you guys announcing here?
The real exciting announcement is we have a new member of the Mile Higher crew who you guys are going to be seeing and hearing from in our episodes moving forward. And our newest producer is Ian.
Welcome to the show, Ian.
Hi guys. How's it going, everybody?
We're so excited to have you here today. Ian has been behind the scenes for a couple of months. He's been working on several of the episodes, about 2 months of content or so.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. And he's done an amazing job. He's super smart, super well-spoken, one of the kindest souls I've ever met. And I'm just honored to have you here on the show. So would you give us a little kind of background on yourself?
Yeah. I'm Ian. Who should I look at, by the way, when I talk?
Wherever you want to look.
I'm Ian. I'm from Colorado originally, so I'm kind of just stoked to be around a lot of other Colorado people. I went to school in New York for many years, though, studied journalism, studied other things in school as well, and had a great time. But mainly my focus was on radio journalism and oral history, stuff like that. So this position was kind of perfect. And then when I moved back here, didn't do anything except for work in nonprofits. But my mom was really involved with like history of Golden, which is like a small Western town out here. So she did like ghost tours and just like old Western tours. So I've always been
super cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so cool. And they were all pub crawls too. So we got
Were they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you would go, she would tell you a ghost story, and then you'd go to a pub in between, have a drink. There was one time I was like, I don't know if I can drive home. And she was like, it's just up the road, don't worry. But yeah, so I've really loved every second being here. I'm excited to be on the actual show. Also, this is Alice.
Yes.
This is the Prairie Dog.
Alice.
Yeah.
Alice is the queen of our office these days.
So cute.
She brings us so much joy, and you're going to see her during the record. I'm assuming you'll continue to bring her in as she grows up.
Yep, she's just going to keep sleeping in my lap.
Dude,
so.
she's part of our Mile Higher family
She
now,
is.
so she better not be going anywhere.
No way.
Which,
Well-
if you're listening, you're probably like, what's on Ian's lap? It's a cute little Shih Tzu, correct?
Yes, she's a little Shih Tzu Brussels Griffin.
Yeah.
Brussels Griffin. That's right.
Mhm. I'm calling her the Brussels sprout.
She
Yeah.
is so cute. Ian and Alice have been sitting next to me for months, and you guys just haven't known about it.
Yeah, sitting behind the scenes.
Yep.
But today's episode is such a great one for Ian to come into because he has a lot of good thoughts and background on a lot of these topics, especially our first story. He's actually seen this in person, which will make sense once we start getting into it. But I truly think you guys are going to love his commentary as much as we do. You joining our team has seriously been so awesome. We love having you around. You're just such a special person, so smart, and have so much to say. I mean, listening to you off camera has been like listening to a podcast. So
Oh, thank you.
we've been waiting for the moment where we felt like it was good to finally bring you on the show. And I know all of you out there will be super kind in the comments and welcome Ian with
And
Open
can I
arms.
just say that I've been the lone guy on this show for a number of years.
yes.
And I have been begging and pleading to balance it out. And
You
so
have.
I take major responsibility for Ian coming on board.
I found
for sure.
Ian.
Okay, well, I chose him.
Okay.
We all chose him. As soon as we interviewed him, we were like, that's it. He's in.
But I was like, it would be nice to have a good balance
Yeah.
of male and female energy on here.
hmm
And that way people don't think that Janelle and Kendall are bullying me.
Mm.
I know.
As
People have thought that over the years.
over the years, yeah. I'll never forget our believer versus skeptic Bigfoot episode. That's where it
Won't forget it
really
either.
really went wild.
People are not happy with me for having the fun. Just having too much fun.
Yeah. Well, today's another fun one because
Yes,
you
it
can also
is.
be very skeptical about many of these topics, or you can be more of a believer and some of the wild theories about them.
I'm definitely in between on a lot of these.
Yeah,
but
I know you are.
Not
you tell me
completely
all the
closed
time,
off to any of them, I don't think.
but very
But
skeptical.
yeah, a little skeptical. I think that's good, as I always say. It's healthy to be
healthy
skeptical.
skepticism is good.
Stand for something or you fall for everything.
Oh, damn. I'll just shut my mouth then. I love everything, believe everything.
I know you do believe everything, but that's one of the reasons I love you. You're so open-minded.
But I am logical.
Yes, you are. Sometimes.
Most of the time. But let's go ahead and jump into our first one here, the Paulding Lights.
Came out here because somebody had heard about it. We were just sitting around a night, and some local people that we knew had heard about this. So it was, quite an experience, especially being, an undergraduate, like it's the sort of thing that feeds into your imagination.
So in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in the small town of Paulding, it is home to one of the most regular supernatural sightings in the world. And I was surprised I had never heard of this one, but once you pull off of Highway 45, there's a dirt road that spans 7 miles along a string of rolling power lines. And here, you'll likely see people camped out with either beers or telescopes in their hands, waiting for nightfall, waiting to see the sights of the Paulding Lights. Once the sun sets and dusk settles, in the distance on the far side of the dirt road, lights will inevitably appear, as they have been every night for at least 60 years. The lights appear white, red, yellow, green, and sometimes all of the above. Some have reported that the lights dance in the sky, while others say that they glow in place, and they last until darkness covers the forest, and they eventually fade away. So what are these Paulding Lights? The origin of the lights comes from everything. Some say that it's a ghost of a railroad brakeman who died in a horrible accident. Others will say that it's a reliable UFO or some sort of monster hunting on the far side of the road. I mean, the theories are kind of all over the place here. But unfortunately, in 2010, fun ruiners from Michigan Tech University studied the lights and were able to explain them away as distant headlights combined with strange atmospheric effects to create a mirage.
The pictures of the vehicles on the screen of the computer, and it's like, well, that's it, and they still won't believe it.
People are going to believe what they want to believe. A lot of people say that what we will see tonight is not the real Paulding Light. In fact, that the real Paulding Light hasn't been seen for 3+ years. And I think even what people, even the more spectacular things that people have seen can probably still be explained by the same phenomenon. How can we apply statistics to make to derive or to show some sort of relationship between the Paulding Light and what we believe to be the source of it, which is cars?
But still, locals maintain that the lights still appear, even when no one is on the distant highway. And they have been appearing for over a century, long before cars were introduced. So explain that.
Yeah, that's my thing is, how can it be just brake lights from a car or headlights from a car if it was going on before vehicles were even around?
Don't make much sense, does it? Well, still, dozens of people gather every night to witness the lights. And for that alone, it's one of the few paranormal locations on Earth that can reliably entertain a crowd every night. So we all know that in life, there are things you just have to settle with, compromise on, and kind of move on with your life. However, when it comes to doctors, you should not be compromising because you deserve the best healthcare possible. I've said this before on the show, but for years when I was having my health issues, I was chronically ill and I saw horrible doctor after horrible doctor, and I started just compromising. I started allowing myself to see these doctors until I had had enough, and then I just stopped seeing doctors for years. I completely gave up on the practice of medicine, which is obviously not a great move on my part, but that's because I couldn't trust any of the doctors I was seeing. And that is until I started using ZocDoc. And that was before they even started sponsoring the show. Josh actually found a ZocDoc, and I have found endless good medical professionals that I truly feel safe with. I feel like they listen to me, and I feel that I'm finally in good hands. And I enjoy going to the doctor now. If you don't know about ZocDoc, I am telling you, you are missing out. It is such an amazing app. It's a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online, so it couldn't be easier. And we're talking about booking appointments with tens of thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed, credible doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat basically any condition you're searching for. And what's also awesome is the typical wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is just between 24 hours. And sometimes you can even score same-day appointments. I've had that experience. Super, super convenient. We truly love ZocDoc in our house. Even Janelle has found an amazing doctor through ZocDoc after I went to her, and now she's our favorite. So get started yourself by going to ZocDoc.com/milehigher and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. And that's ZocDoc.com/milehigher. Once again, ZocDoc.com/milehigher. Now, Ian, you've actually seen the Paulding Lights, correct?
I have indeed.
All right, tell us.
We were, my entire family's from Wisconsin. We went to a wedding. I didn't because I was in 8th grade, but my family got really drunk and it was awesome. And they were like, you know what? We're pretty close to Paulding if you guys want to drive and see this thing. So we drove and it was exactly like that. Like we pulled up before sunset. There were like 12 other people already camped out. All of them were drinking. Some people had telescopes and they were trying to like figure out what it was. And they were like, no, you see there's no cars or whatever. But once the sun started to set, it was this fixed red light, like way in the distance that it almost looked like a laser beam was being shined at us. But then if you looked around at everyone else, everyone had the red glow on their face.
Really that bright?
It was that bright for sure. Like you saw it reflect off of the landscape around you.
And how big did it look to you?
It was like, kind of like the size of a penny maybe, but the size of a penny 7 miles away.
Yeah,
so,
from your point of vision.
Yeah, so it looked huge. And I don't know, to me, like the shade was definitely that of brake lights. But the fact of the matter is they didn't move at all. Like it was in one spot for like an hour and then it eventually went away.
So who is just sitting there holding down their brakes for an hour every night?
Just to like fuck with people too? I don't know. Like that's kind of mean, dude.
Yeah, and you'd think they'd be found out.
There's just some hermit that lives in the woods that just comes out every night and
just trolling.
Is actually creating the Paulding Lights.
What did the rest of your family think of that?
They were happy to be drinking beer outside. So they were like, this is sick. This is awesome. But no, I mean, I think that was like mainly the coolest part about it was just like pulling off a dirt road and suddenly you see like a dozen strangers like just sitting camped out and being like, yeah, we're here for the lights too.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
And every night. That is pretty cool. It's a cool way to bring people together.
Yeah.
Now, was your mom out there with you too?
She was, and she should have gotten photos. I texted her before we recorded this because I'm like, where's our footage? But my mom was out there with us. And, for her, she saw it and was immediately just like, oh, yeah, that's a ghost. That's a ghost.
Because your mom's big into the paranormal, as you explained earlier.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if she had heard of it before that trip, but the moment it was brought up as like something we can all go do, she was like, oh, yeah, I'll drive the kids out there. That doesn't matter.
Your mom sounds awesome. I need to meet her.
Let's take a look at this clip, though. I want to actually see this light.
I'm just really quick, though. I'm curious. Since she believes it's a ghost, does she believe the railroad brakeman theory?
She does, mainly just because that's what they told us there. Like that's what our other family members told us when we were there. I will, just to because I researched this, I will say there is like no railroad nearby. So it's kind of unclear how that became the most popular explanation behind it.
Interesting.
I think it's probably just because it looks, people love talking about railroads and ghosts. So I think it just kind of naturally came that way.
And there's no like specific story of a brakeman that had this tragic death to connect to it. It's just an idea.
Huh.
Yeah, even Mr. Paranormal Man over here, I'm pretty skeptical of this being some like a ghost or an apparition, because this would be the most reliable ghost I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And also, usually spirits don't have the energy to manifest in such a bright light like this, where everybody can see it night after night after night. I tend to lean more towards still paranormal, but not spirit based. More of either this is some type of interdimensional portal being, something like that, that is actually located in this area. Because there's a lot of areas across the world, really, where this type of phenomenon exists. I mean, we've talked about the Marfa lights.
Yes, I was just thinking
that's another famous one. But there's instances almost exactly like this all over the place. Although the mirage theory seems very logical, right? It seems like, I mean, mirages are very trippy to think about and understand, but it is a possible explanation for it. Although I'm interested to know how the actual specific points in this area, like what is it exactly about the atmosphere in this area that's actually causing the mirage, right? Like it just seems so random that there would be this natural phenomenon occurring on this dirt road. You know what I mean? It could be just like the elevation and the air
wouldn't
pressure.
The color be consistent if it really was a mirage, or no?
Not necessarily, but yeah, I don't know. It's very weird.
Do people, for the most part, report seeing red? Is that kind of the most common?
That's the most common. However, there is a theory that it is currently what we see now, like the past 4 years, is actually not the true light because it hasn't been red for the most part. It has been more of like the standard like front headlight color as
like
opposed
white,
to like
white, yellow,
whatever.
yeah.
So there is a theory that like for whatever reason in the past 4 years it's changed. Whereas like when we went, it was red. It was like it was the color of a brake light. So I don't really know why that theory exists. It's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
But I will say from what I remember with the actual scientific explanation behind it is that because of the rolling nature of the hills, it's a combination of just like the warm air and the cold air meeting in the middle. And it's so incredibly humid that there is like almost texture in the air. So it allows for light to travel.
Oh, interesting.
But that bright?
Yeah.
That's the weird thing is I could understand a faint, ever so slight glow in the distance, but like bright to the point that people are because I feel like most people be like, oh yeah, that's just a mirage. Or, I mean, the fact that people are really believing that this is something supernatural tells me that this is much stronger than something like that happening. That scientific explanation just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. It's certainly weird. Okay, well, let's pull up the video. I want to see this for myself.
When the darkness falls in the town of Paulding, the mysterious light appears.
Back then, there was a lot of different stories about it, but it boiled down to being like the end of a train, a caboose light going off in the distance, ghost of a train.
Yeah.
That's more or less what it boiled down to, being that one there, but I've heard it to be in other stories too.
Sightings of the light have been reported for decades, while most claim the first sighting was in the 1960s. Some others believe it was spotted even sooner.
My cousin's husband, Don, they've been coming here quite a while, and I've known quite other people who come here.
Some call it a spirit, others swamp gas, and skeptics identify the optical phenomenon as something else. But what exactly is the cause of the beaming light over the valley?
We took somebody with, we took their pickup truck and had them set up the adoptive highway sign that we saw. And they turned on their hazards and flashed their brights. Back then, I don't know if it's true right now, but there was no cell service here. So we couldn't contact, but we kind of, at dusk, you could see the car.
While headlights were determined to be the most probable, other theories were also addressed.
We have all these valleys here, and especially early in the summer, it's very cold in those valleys. It never really quite warms up until about this time of year. So you have cold air. And then if you have a nice, hot, warm day, what will happen is that they'll have a warm layer on top of a cold layer. And then when the sun sets, then you have a cold layer in between it. So you have a sandwich effect, and that can create an optical duct. And one of the things we've observed but never recorded is that just over the horizon, there used to be at least some blinking red lights from a radio tower. And those would be visible just before sundown and right after sundown, and then they would disappear.
When he explains it like that, it seems plausible.
Yeah.
That this is explained, unless it is true, in fact, that there's no vehicles in the area. Although the mention of the radio tower is like,
yeah, that's interesting.
But
wouldn't the color be consistent?
Well, I think it was consistent for a long time, and then it kind of changes from time. Like they showed it, they were like doing the experiment in that video where they had a truck down there, the headlights on, and it does look like it's kind of floating, in the air there, but it's just the truck on the hill, with the light shining above it.
Well, I definitely want to hear from our subscribers out in Michigan. Have you ever seen the Paulding Lights? Do you have thoughts on it? What do the locals believe? Let us know in the comments. It's certainly curious.
Or if you've seen them yourself, what did it look like?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
See what the consistency is.
You've been there.
But anyways, let's move on to the next one. I'm very excited about this one because this is truly wild and
this is some
still a
whack
mystery,
shit.
which Kendall's very skeptical of. But
I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I wouldn't say I'm like a
There's
full non-believer, but it's weird.
legit people that verified this.
That's what makes me...
News articles
Yeah.
out on this.
The police.
Yeah. You'd be surprised at how many wild paranormal hauntings that police are involved with.
And
and they verify the paranormal claims themselves. They experience what's going on in this haunted house
I think
themselves.
that actually is what's made me lean more towards believer than skeptic is the fact that the police back it up and that the people who experience it themselves, the homeowners that this happened to, they don't want to believe that this actually happened.
Right. They're not leaning into it.
No, like this has been bad for them. We'll explain, but
Right.
yeah.
So this is the Bleeding House in Atlanta. The brick house at 1114 Fountain Drive in Atlanta, Georgia was pretty quiet for most of its existence. Married couple William and Minnie Clyde Winston had lived in the house for nearly 20 years. By the fall of 1987, they had 3 adult children, and Minnie spent most of her time caring for her husband because his kidneys had been failing, and Minnie oversaw him receiving dialysis treatment on the regular. On September 8th, 1987, Minnie had finished caring for William and decided to unwind with a bath. At around 11:30 p.m., she exited the bath and stepped onto the tile bathroom floor. At first, she thought the floor was just wet with bath water, but this time the substance felt much slicker and stickier. And that's when she looked down at the bathroom floor, and it was covered in blood. And not only that, according to her, it sprayed from the tiles, and she said this, quote, like a sprinkler.
She saw it with her own eyes. How terrifying would that be? I mean, talk about the last thing you're possibly expecting getting out of the fucking bath.
I would be freaking out because I think it's my own blood.
Yeah, or you think it's someone in the house's blood.
Right.
But spurting from the... That's just got to be
like
so
a sprinkler.
confusing. Fuck.
So Minnie runs out into the hallway, fearful that something had gone horribly wrong with William. And when she left the bathroom, she noticed that the blood was everywhere. Blood fell from the ceiling, seeped in from the walls, and came up from the floorboards. When Minnie finally found William, he was perfectly fine and was also very confused by the blood that was now flooding their entire home. So they did what we would probably all do in this situation and call 911. And 911 sent out police and EMTs. But neither of them could find the source for the blood. Neither William nor Minnie were bleeding, and the amount that covered their home couldn't have come from a single person. So obviously this is quite a bit of blood.
Yeah, we're talking about gallons of blood here.
I mean, if this was a person bleeding, they would be dead because they would have bled out.
Yeah.
That's how much blood we're talking.
Yep.
The couple had set their security alarm at 9:30 p.m. and previously locked their doors, and when police arrived, they noted that the door was still locked and the alarm system had never been tripped. There was also no evidence that they could find of anyone else being there at the home other than the couple. They actually took samples of this substance and then sent it to the state crime lab, and when the results came back, it was revealed that the house had been bleeding human blood, and the blood type did not match Minnie or William.
So what the fuck?
We have screenshots of articles being written about this house. They're Bleeding House Puzzles crime experts. Photos of them in the house. It looks like some legit evidence that at least this happened.
But one of the frustrating things, and definitely leads me to more of the skeptical side of things to some degree, is that there's no photos of the actual blood. And you'd think that'd be something to document.
Maybe
right?
it's still classified. Maybe it's still
They don't want to freak out the
tucked
public.
away in the file.
That's possible. That's possible. But without a body or any evidence that a crime was committed, cops didn't know what else to do. I mean, seriously, what do you do at that point? So they continued a routine investigation and contacted local blood banks to see if there was any sort of accident that could have led to the blood leaking into the Winston's home, which even if there was an accident, how does it all just end up in their home? But not only were no accidents reported, but this was during the height of the AIDS crisis, and blood banks were even more locked down than usual. So some, of course, have claimed it's a hoax, and it might be. And part of the reason for that is because the Winstons did have access to blood because William had frequent dialysis treatment. But this is unlikely, as the elderly couple despised the attention that they received from this mystery. And not to mention the fact it wasn't their blood type anyway. But many berated the reporters who camped outside of their home and even said in later years that the substance was red dye or rust and mud, although the police did confirm that it was blood. Others claim that their adult children perpetrated the hoax in an attempt to get their parents declared incompetent, which this is a really wild theory. I mean, what a fucking extreme way to go about things. I could think of a million other ways to try to get your parents declared incompetent than to put gallons of blood in their house.
Right. And it would, the motive would have been for inheritance. What is kind of the way that theory goes. But again, there's no evidence for this. And there's no evidence of anybody being inside the house when that all happened. So,
But
I mean, this just reminds me of like some of the traps in Saw. Like we're talking that much blood.
Ew, I don't watch those movies. Never will.
So that would be very hard and time consuming to set up this kind of hoax.
yeah, well, even if it was them, where are they getting that blood?
True.
Not from themselves, I would assume.
And yeah, there was no evidence of anyone having entered the home or anything like that. How do you move all that blood without anyone noticing and leak it into your It's just like, come on. And it's honestly kind of fucked up to blame them for something like that. Of course, there's the supernatural theories. Before the Winstons moved in, the house had no reported crime or traumatic experiences, but still it confirmed that the house bled with no apparent source. And we've seen statues bleed and cry with no explanation. There's reports of that type of thing happening too. But like I said, we're talking about near gallons of blood flooding into a home, and that's completely unheard of. And what's really, really wild is the Winstons continued to live in their home after this happened. William actually died just 2 years after the house bled. However, Minnie remained in the home until 2015 when she passed at the age of 104. Badass. Love that for her. But she maintained to her death that if it were blood, like the cops confirmed it to be, that she would have never stayed in the home. So she never believed it was actually blood, even though she's being told it was. And why on earth?
She believed it was rusty water, like rust and mud and pipes creating rusty water. But
which I get. You got to tell yourself what you got to tell yourself to keep living in that house. But I don't know, man.
So was it blood or was it just rusty water? I think there'd be a big difference when you look at it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes rusty water looks a little like dark red maybe, but.
And I can't get past that the police confirmed it was blood. Why on earth would they do that? There is no reason. Right?
Man, makes you wonder about the history of this home before they were there.
Yeah.
But then again, like blood wouldn't be around that long unless somebody. It just reminds me of like H.H. Holmes and his castle of death. You know, it makes me wonder, like, was this like a mortuary and they like drained the blood and stored it somehow and then it leaked out? I don't know. That's pretty wild. But
well, I will say this is one paranormal story I'm like not too skeptical on, just because the police did confirm it to be blood. That's wild. I've never heard of anything like that. Normally, police will do everything they can to debunk any type of outrageous paranormal claim, but for them to be like, nope, this is blood, and for the homeowners to be like, no, it's not, because so clearly there's no motive for them to like get attention or money out of this, which is often why I'm skeptical about paranormal stories. So this is a weird one.
Yeah, and there's no reports of like other paranormal activity. You would think that if the walls start bleeding, that there would be disembodied voices, they would be seeing things.
Maybe, but I don't know. That much blood, that seems to be enough.
True. But I don't know. I don't know. It could be.
But is it possible that other things happened as well, but Minnie was like, no.
True. Maybe
don't want to report that. I don't want the
story.
attention.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that myself because I'm planning on living in here until I die.
True. Some
What do you
people are
guys
just willing
think?
to stick it out.
Yeah, I guess so.
For the blood, I have absolutely no idea. I spent days like, where the fuck is this blood coming from? And there's no apparent source. Like cops searched the house, looked for bodies. They were even though they confirmed it to be human blood, they still were like, all right, well, maybe there's like a bunch of dead squirrels in the wall or something. And
Yeah.
they couldn't find anything at all.
Nothing.
So for the blood, I don't know. For Minnie convincing herself, like, no, it wasn't blood in the years afterwards. I understand that because when I was in New York, my apartment flooded with sewage, with like literal poop.
Oh my God.
Literal poop. And we left, but I still had to stay there for like a month to move all my stuff out. And the entire time I was there and picking through my clothes, I just thought to myself, like, it's just water. It's just rainwater. Like, don't worry about it, Ian.
Just had to tell yourself what you had to do.
Exactly. So I understand that part of it.
Ew, that is disgusting.
Mhm.
God.
That's often a common question when it comes to people living in haunted houses. Like, why does it take you so long to move? Like, why not just get up and move? And the easy explanation for that is it's expensive to move. Most people don't have the financial means to go find a new home. So they're willing to just stay there until things get so bad that they feel like they're forced to leave.
Yeah.
That happens time and time again, where people end up staying in a home because it's haunted because they have nowhere else to go. So that makes sense to me that she would just stay, especially if it was a one-time occurrence and she wasn't afraid of anything.
Yeah, I understand she may not have had the means to move or had attachment to the home, but I don't know. For me, blood spurting out of the tiles, I think that would have been the final straw.
I'd be like, we're tearing this house down to the freaking foundation. And we're figuring out what this is. Although I will say, how come they didn't get some scientists in here?
Yeah. Do you realize that? For science. Science?
I mean,
Yeah. Are you a scientist?
That's what I was about to say.
Like, let's get this. And like, what was the sample? How much was the sample? There's not a lot of information on the specifics, right? Like, did they just take one little vial and send it to the lab? Is it possible that maybe some of it was blood, the rest of it was just rusty water? And that's the hard thing. And if it was really this crazy phenomenon, like you mentioned, Kendall, why wouldn't they have taken a bunch of photographs of it and there'd be like a scientific investigation on what is this new phenomenon of bleeding houses? Like, let's figure this out. I think that's where the
fishy.
skepticism kind of comes in, because it's like,
yeah.
Is it possible? Just this crazy out of this world thing happened here? Yeah. But is it also possible this is just like an old house with like severely rusty pipes with maybe
but why wouldn't the police
spilled blood in the house or something?
I just don't get the police element. That's the one thing.
I mean, we talk about the police doing stupid shit and fucking up all the time. Is it possible they're lying or
could they have sent a different sample or something?
Of course it's possible, but I don't understand the motive for that. You would think
new tourist
maybe
attraction.
These were different types of,
Atlanta Tourism Board.
Maybe the police were in on it. Maybe they were like friends with the police. I don't know. This makes no fucking sense to me. I'm sorry. Like, for once in my life, I'm actually speechless. This is like, really, the walls were bleeding.
And spurting.
Yeah. I'm more likely to believe SpongeBob the walls were oozing green slime than fucking blood. Come on now.
The elements do not line up with the typical paranormal reporting in someone's house. Normally, it's the people that live there that are going hard that this happened. And the police are like, hell no. So that's
but do we really know if they're not going along with it? I mean, this is what they said, but behind closed doors, maybe they're like...
Because they didn't want the attention.
Yeah, or they're like, oh, we actually don't like this attention.
Or maybe they just had to tell themselves whatever they needed to continue living there and keep
You would just
sanity.
think, though, if there was literally this much blood all over the house, that there would be crime scene photos, right? Like there'd be some physical evidence to
also
back it up.
Is it possible that it would have been like condemned and considered to be a biohazard to live there?
That's what I'm saying. What did you just get like a fucking Swiffer? I'm like, hey, no problem. Like, if there's blood everywhere.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
They have to get
Seems like it would be dangerous especially when this was happening
Yeah.
during the AIDS crisis and people were like super on edge and freaking out.
You'd think they'd want to figure out exactly the origin.
Yeah. Yeah, something's a little fishy here. Don't know quite what it is. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts out there on this bleeding house.
But let's move along to the Vatican Secret Archives, probably my personal favorite story today. So as we all know, and we've talked about before on the show, the Vatican, somewhere I definitely want to visit one day.
Do you?
There's so much mystery around the Vatican, and it's kind of this anomaly in, I feel like, all civilization across this planet. There's nowhere quite like the Vatican, which, as we know, is the seat of the Catholic Church, and it's the smallest city-state in the world. And not only that, it's home to the world's largest and oldest library collections.
Now, we talked about the Vatican several times on our show. What was the episode where we dove pretty deep into the history? I'm forgetting. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I do.
Forgetting
pretty
the name
recently in the last year.
It was.
It had to do with
it was a murder.
The Pope's guards.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like an unsolved murder within the like Pope's royal guards or something.
But talking about what it's like to be a royal guard and the experience of like pledging your life and all, it was pretty interesting to learn about, because I know very little when it comes to the Catholic Church, other than the fucked up shit that we've covered.
Swiss guard murders.
Yes.
But I don't remember
the Swiss guard. That's what it is. But today we're specifically focusing on the Vatican Library and, of course, the secret archives that exist. Potentially, right? If you didn't know, the Vatican Library has 53 miles. Yes, you heard that right. 53 miles of shelving. 53 miles? Like,
I know. Can we put that into perspective?
God.
53 miles.
So that's
longer than our commute home.
That's
like triple our commute
times
home.
10 probably.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a long, long way. It has over 1.6 million books, 75,000 manuscripts, and at least 8,600 more significant works printed before 1501. So it seems like most of ancient history and artifacts are housed here within the Vatican. Pope Nicholas V officially created it in 1451 to centralize the Catholic Church's records following numerous sackings by invading nations. Everybody's trying to take it down. Only accredited scholars are allowed to access the Vatican Library, and even then, they aren't allowed to pick what books and records they're allowed to research. So no browsing. You can only ask, for items on a specific subject and what your research goals are, and then they will choose which items that they hand to you to use.
Sounds about right.
And passes to the library expire every 6 months, and the Vatican revoke your access at any point in time. So very, very locked down. This is not like your local public library where you can go hang out and peruse the shelves for hours and hours, and which is a ton of fun.
Do they have a children's section? How about a story time? I love library story time.
I bet you they have some children's books in there. I mean, you would think that there would be children's books from before in the medieval times, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Can only imagine how brutal they were.
Yeah.
It's like those kids songs, like lullabies that are like very...
Oh, yeah. Or like the Grimm fairy tales.
Yes.
Yeah, or like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and...
Yeah.
Robin Hood.
Oh, yeah, what's the one with the king pull the sword out of the stone?
Yeah, that's King Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. King Arthur's story.
Right.
But one of the oldest known items within the library is the Codex Vaticanus, a 4th century Christian manuscript of the Greek Bible based on the Old Testament Bible written at Alexandria. When the Vatican established its library, it created a more hidden archive stored in a bunker underneath the Vatican. The Vatican Secret Archive stores an unknown number of works dating back to at least 1,200 years, and I bet you that is just a conservative estimate. I'm sure there's things down there far, far older than 1,200 years. While the Vatican allows high-ranking scholars access to these secret archives, they are unlikely to be given much freedom. There are designated sections for them to use, and certain areas are just completely roped off that nobody has access to except for a select few within the Vatican, which I would love to know what's in the roped off section. But some of the materials we know are within the Vatican Secret Archives include a letter from Mary, Queen of Scots, requesting the Pope save her life and rescue her from prison. In case you didn't know, her request was denied, and she ultimately was executed in 1587. There's a letter from Pope Leo X in which he excommunicated Martin Luther from the church. This is also stored inside, as well as minutes from the trials against the Knights Templar for the crimes that they committed during the Crusades. This document might even show that the Pope personally absolved the Knights Templar of their sins before execution, which this would be huge. Can you imagine if it came out that the Pope actually absolved the Knights Templar of their sins? The Crusades? You probably don't know too much about the Crusades, huh?
To be honest, I don't know too much, but I know that would be pretty fucking wild if that actually happened.
They massacred loads and loads of people.
Yeah, like committed some of the earliest crimes against humanity. Like just horrible, horrible shit. But they are really cool in National Treasure. I will say that much.
Yeah.
That is a good movie.
Oh, in National Treasure?
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. I haven't seen it in so long.
Oh my God.
We should watch that tonight. That was my first date.
I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
National Treasure.
Really?
With my little boyfriend, Nick. Yep. I think I still have the movie ticket.
But the Knights Templar, man, there's a ton of interesting stuff with them and mysticism and all sorts of crazy theories with them. Maybe I'll do an episode in Lights Out on that one. It's a bit brutal for this show, I think. A bit bloody.
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
But not only that, the Vatican secret archives also hold the notes from the trial against Galileo and a letter from Michelangelo discussing a payment dispute between the Pope and the guards of the Vatican. Very, very old documents. And wouldn't it be cool if they open this to the public? Like, it'd be so nice if we could just go take a field trip,
totally
a mile-high field trip to the Vatican.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
And go see this ourselves.
Why don't they just upload it to like a Google Drive and share
Yeah.
the link? Scan everything in.
If y'all have nothing to hide,
Throw it on a Google Drive.
let's go. So obviously the archive's private nature has really led to extreme speculation. Some of it warranted. I definitely understand why. People are wondering what the Vatican could be hiding within this bunker. And, as we've talked about, Vatican, there's some sketchy shit that has happened over the years in the Catholic Church in general. So that's really fueled the theories as well. But the church maintains that it's not really too exciting. They're like, nothing to see here, people. The title Secret Archives is actually a mistranslation, according to them, from Latin, and it's supposed to be the private archives, which is that really that different than secret archives? I don't know. But most of the materials within are acts created by the Holy See, state papers, letters, and account books. The Vatican even changed the name to Apostolic Archive, which kind of is a fun name. It's like a pasta potluck. But that was an attempt to demystify its contents. But still, speculation is rampant among theorists about what could be inside the secret archives. And we'll go through some of the crazier claims. The craziest, and most interesting, I think, is some people believe that the Vatican has a real-life angel chained up in a hidden room inside the archive. Which, yeah,
I would love to know
wild.
who these people are that think that one.
Maybe some in our audience.
That's wild.
Tell us why you think that, if that is
They
you.
figured out how to chain up a celestial being and keep them
Can't they just
up.
like dematerialize, fly away?
They're
more powerful than humans. How can we have them locked
There's
up?
no way something physical, unless they had some sort of magic object that we don't know about, that they were using in order to lock this celestial being up. But my bet is that you ain't locking up an angel, man.
There are some other wild theories, maybe even wilder than the angel. But in 2010, head exorcist Gabriele Amort announced that the devil himself resides within the Vatican.
Amen, brother.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is so interesting and possibly one of my favorite experts in demonology that I've ever looked into. I have a whole episode on Father Amort because
On Lights Out.
Yeah, on Lights Out. Very, very interesting. There was a movie recently with Russell Crowe called The Pope's Exorcist that was made. Terrible movie, but it kind of like is loosely based off of his life. But he was really the chief exorcist for the Vatican. He became the Diocese of Rome in 1986, and he claims to have done 60,000 exorcisms in his career. Now, you're probably like, how the hell did he do 60,000 exorcisms? And within exorcism, there's different types and different types of rituals that can be done. There's minor and major exorcisms that can be done. So 60,000 could also include just praying over somebody. So really, it's like he interacted with, did some type of prayer ritual for 60,000 people. But when it comes to full demonic possession and like casting demons out of people, that number is closer to 100. But still, that is pretty crazy. And there's actually a documentary as well called The Devil and Father Amort, that if you're interested in what he does, an exorcism in the actual documentary of a woman who they believe is demonically possessed. And it's pretty wild.
Sounds scary.
It is scary if you believe in demonic possession. But, some people don't and, think it's mental illness or something else going on. But it is very interesting. This guy was the head honcho for the Vatican for a long time.
Now, some people believed that he was sort of referencing the ranks of pedophiles in the church, which we have talked about ad nauseum. Father Amort has really spoken out against all of that over the years. So a lot of people kind of assume that that's what he was referencing. But he actually did mean Satan himself lives in the Vatican. Some believe that there is a chamber for him within the secret archives.
That would be pretty fucking crazy if that were true.
Yeah. I'm going to say I do not believe that one.
Now, I will say, not that literal Satan is in the Vatican, but the Vatican does have specific chambers built for most saints and notable people within the Bible in the Vatican. So there is a chance that there is a room dedicated to Lucifer, to Satan within the Vatican. Whether he lives inside of it or not is fucking crazy. But there probably is a like Satan's room in the Vatican.
Yeah.
But aren't they scared? Why would they want a room dedicated to him?
Keep him close, man. Keep an eye on the devil.
See, I don't believe in the devil personally, so I'm going to say no on that one. But
yeah, well, they need to lock it up because we got a lot of evil going on in this world, and the devil's clearly pulling some strings from his locked room in the Vatican, if that's the case. Yeah, I lean more towards it being metaphorically referencing the rampant pedophilia within the Catholic Church and also just all the other fucked up corruption within the Vatican Catholic Church when he said that. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. Probably not real. It'd just be insane. Unless they have some insane technology or magic or something, they're using something that we don't know about that's powerful enough to keep an angel and the devil locked in there.
Yeah, you'd think especially the devil would be able to break the fuck out of there, but
yeah. He's got a legion of demons that you'd think would be able to just destroy the entire establishment. That's the whole establishment is evil. That's a take as well. So
that one I'm open to.
I would, I don't know. I think keep them in there. But I think it would be kind of funny if they kept the angel and the devil in the same room. And just like, what do they chat about? How do they pass the time?
Sit in here till you become friends.
Yes.
Well, Lucifer is a fallen angel, so they likely know each other already.
Oh, right. Yes, I do know about that.
Yeah, Lucifer. He was up there with the OG for a while, and
according to the Bible,
didn't want to follow the rules, and he wanted more for himself, and so they said, "Get your ass out of heaven," and then they threw him down.
So again, these are some pretty crazy claims, but it seems as though many believe that the Vatican possesses hundreds of materials and artifacts related to demonology, including the earliest writings on the subject.
This I do believe, though. If anybody's got the info on demonology, it's these guys.
Why wouldn't they? The amount of content they actually do have, it's got to be somewhere in there, right? Some believe that King Solomon was a mage who wrote intricate manuscripts on the study of demons and how to summon and control them. King Solomon was the legendary Old Testament king and potential wizard, who we will talk about a lot in this episode. Now, I'm totally clueless on this subject. Yeah. Obviously, I did not grow up religious, so anything I've learned about the Bible has come from you.
A quick little lesson, because everybody, whether you're religious or not, has probably heard the story of David and Goliath, right? Janelle, do you know what that story that is?
I've heard the term. I have no idea what it means.
I actually don't remember that one much. I feel like you've told me at some
David
point.
slayed Goliath with a sling
and Goliath is a Goliath.
Goliath was a giant. It was the opposing army that he defeated.
Gotcha.
With the help of God. And so Solomon is David's son. But Solomon kind of went a little, he was a little greedy. He was trying to follow God, and then he kind of went off in his own direction a little bit, kind of went away from God, and was very wealthy. And, like you just said, there's theories that he was very interested in, kind of other aspects that were kind of frowned upon from what he had learned from, his father. And so he kind of like went off in this other direction. He had 700 wives, apparently.
Oh,
700, which is
dang,
pretty wild.
He's got
women from other nations as well, which was definitely frowned upon.
That
at the
was
time.
the big scandal, right? That it was.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic considering another story we'll tell about Solomon here later on. But
700 wives. How do you manage that?
But he was very wealthy. He was he was a very powerful king for sure.
I don't know. After seeing them, I'm very skeptical about that. I've watched Sister Wives. I know how hard it was for Cody Brown with 4 of them. So
well, I don't think it was quite the same. When you're a king, it's a little bit different. Cody Brown's the farthest from a king.
So King Solomon, whose architecture was the foundation of the Freemasons and his legendary temple, is lost to time. His original writings are reportedly within the secret archives, as well as the Seal of Solomon, which was a ring that he used to control the demons once they were summoned.
Which I think Bible scholars would heavily refute these claims.
Okay.
Yeah. But still, I think there's been potential artifacts and things like that found that people believe tie back to Solomon. But again, a lot of it's very, very unconfirmed and depends on who you ask. But still interesting to consider.
So one of the most famous rumored texts that could be hidden in the secret archives is the Grand Grimoire. According to legend, the Grand Grimoire was discovered in the tomb of King Solomon and was a 14th century copy of his original manuscript. So the Grand Grimoire apparently included a detailed description of hell and instructions for summoning Lucifuge Rafakali, who is the prime minister of hell. Did not know that existed. And the third in command under Lucifer and Beelzebub. I can never say this, and I'm afraid to say it.
Beelzebub, which, future episode on Lights Out, we'll be diving deep into that one for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You don't get scared? Aren't you like not even supposed to say it?
Yeah, I do a little bit, but say a prayer after.
Okay.
Got some holy water on order, so.
Well, The Red Dragon, a famous pamphlet first printed in Paris, is reportedly a copy of the Grand Grimoire and is still used in summoning rituals to this day. My dog actually just showed up. He heard his name.
He's like, you've summoned me.
They want to see you. Come here,
Our groomer used to call him a demon, so maybe
Beelzebub.
Yeah,
that's his name.
We fired that groomer.
Yeah, he was very mean to our dog.
Bernie's
calling
a good
him all
boy.
kinds of Jaws and everything else.
Ravioli.
No.
Anyways, suppose the Vatican had the original Grand Grimoire. In that case, the theory states that they allowed the Red Dragon to be copied incorrectly, and the Church knew the only true ritual to summon Lucifuge. Among other artifacts, the Church is apparently in possession. You've probably heard of some of these before. The true cross Jesus was crucified on, the Holy Grail, and the 30 pieces of gold given to Judas for betraying Jesus. That would be wild if they had those. The Holy Grail, if you're not familiar, is a cup that, according to, I'm pretty sure it's just legend, but it's a cup that was drank at the Last Supper with Jesus, and subsequently the cup was used to capture blood from Jesus when he was crucified on the cross. And so it's kind of like a holy relic at this point. And nobody knows if it actually exists or not, but you've probably heard of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's what I was
and the Holy Grail.
I knew it from there.
And what's the exact title? It's like the
Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade. Thank you. Yes, it's been a while since I've seen Indiana Jones. Great movies, but that's maybe where you heard it before. The 30 pieces of gold would be pretty crazy. Which, if you want to know that story a little bit more, Judas was actually the one that for 30 gold coins, he betrayed Jesus by telling Pontius Pilate, who was the ruler, somebody in charge who was trying to find Jesus and basically hold him accountable for all of, in their eyes, crimes he was committing, because he was going against, the empire at the time and was breaking a bunch of laws by teaching God, all of the things that Jesus was here teaching people.
Does that have any connection to the Judas who stabbed Caesar or no?
Brutus. That's Brutus.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, Judas stabbed Caesar?
You're right. Okay.
But it's a similar story.
Similar story, yeah.
It sounded familiar. You're right. It was Brutus.
But Judas was one of Jesus's disciples or apostles. And so he was like in the inner circle. He was very, very close with Jesus, and he ultimately betrayed him, which then led to Jesus being crucified on the cross and dying. And so imagine carrying that on your conscience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Judas is
rough.
that whole story with Judas is actually pretty interesting. But if they have those gold coins, I'm sure those are very, very cursed at this point. You wouldn't want to have possession of those. I mean, that was what was responsible for crucifying what many people believe to be the Son of God. I don't think I'd want those either.
Yeah, I'm going to say no on that for myself.
But one of the most interesting rumored objects is the Essene Gospel of Peace. The Essenes was a mystical sect of Judaism that resided in Roman-occupied regions of the Middle East, and they were likely the authors of the Dead Scrolls, which, Ian, will you elaborate a little bit more and maybe just briefly tell people?
Scrolls.
The Dead Sea Scrolls, yes, not the Dead Scrolls. Did I say Dead Scrolls?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dead Sea Scrolls.
Completely believe this one is true, frankly. And I think a lot of the reason why the Vatican wants to keep it hidden, which Josh will go into, but it's also because there's this misconception about early Judaism and Christianity in which like we believe it's exactly how we see it now, as like, one true God that we look to, when in reality at this point in time, there were hundreds, if not more, different sects of these particular religions. And a lot of them not only believed in multiple gods, for instance, like Yahweh was the initial like storm god, and then he basically killed all the other gods to become the one true God in some versions of like the early Hebrew Bible. But some of them also like straight up practiced magic and believed in magic. And that's where like the idea of the Kabbalah now in Judaism comes from, are these like early rituals that tried to invoke mysticism and magic. That is like why I do believe this one is in the Vatican Secret Archives, because like certain elements of these rituals do exist still, especially in Catholicism, because like, I don't know, when you bury someone in a traditional Catholic church, you have to like turn their coffin like multiple different particular degrees before they're blessed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And even like the whole process of communion, of like eating the body and blood,
Yep.
Like that is like, frankly, a very pagan ritual.
Yeah.
And it's very like reminiscent of sacrifice. But to believe that like there was another version of this religion that we still believe in that had multiple gods and literal magic in it would be kind of apocryphal to like larger Catholicism specifically, but Christianity at large.
Especially the way it's practiced today. And it would cause us to have to like really look at the way we've been doing things. And it also, I mean, just look very bad on history and all the things that have happened and unfolded around the world, and be like, maybe we were wrong. And this is not actually how we were supposed to do things.
Which is not something they would like.
Right, exactly. And I think, and it's just gotten worse and worse as time goes on. But fun fact, Joshua in Hebrew means Yahweh saves, or Yahweh is salvation. But the rumored Essene Gospel of Peace details Jesus' life between his birth and crucifixion and provides proof that Jesus was a member of the Essenes. Which, this is very interesting because there is a large portion of Jesus' life that is just missing from the Bible. Like, there is a long number of years that we have no idea what Jesus was up to. Like, there's so much about Jesus' life that we don't know, or has been deliberately kept out of the Bible and potentially is in this gospel of peace I keep talking about. It'd just be so interesting to know if this actually exists and what does this actually contain, and know more about Jesus' life, because there's so much missing from the Bible that, most of the times people either speculate or we just kind of assume that it was always he was always doing the same things and in the same places. But in fact, for all we know, Jesus could have been a world traveler and been in all different parts of the world instead of just one location, like it's specified in the Bible. So,
which would make a lot of sense.
I mean, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he want to go see the entire world that his Father created?
Spread the word too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't he want to go see all the natural wonders of the world? I mean, it's a beautiful planet. Why not go see God's creation in its full entirety? and also go talk to all the other people that were living across the planet at the time. These days, it seems like there's a subscription for absolutely everything you do, whether it's the gym, food delivery, streaming services, you name it. You can end up with 10 plus subscriptions that you're paying for on a monthly basis super fast, sometimes too fast, to the point you forget about how many subscriptions you truly have. Subscriptions can be an absolute pain to track down, let alone cancel, but Rocket Money, the personal finance app that I absolutely love and use on an everyday basis, actually goes out there, finds those subscriptions for you, shows you them, and then even cancels your unwanted subscription, which is absolutely amazing. So this helps you avoid that from happening. So if you do have to sign up for a subscription, you can keep track of it, and then you can cancel through the app with just a few taps, which is awesome. Not only that, they monitor your spending, and they'll even help lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Rocket Money is definitely the best personal finance app that I've ever used, and I honestly look at it every single day. And what I love about it is just how easy and simple the dashboard is. It lets you see upcoming bills, so it'll tell you a recurring bill that you have, how many days until you have to pay that bill. It'll track your spending month over month. There's even additional premium features that will let you track your net worth. It'll let you track your credit. Literally everything financial can be done within this one app, which is absolutely amazing. One of the truly unique features is that lowering the bills. They'll try to negotiate lower bills for you by up to 20%. And all you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. So it's no wonder that Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/milehigher. Let them know we sent you. That's rocketmoney.com/milehigher. Check it out today at rocketmoney.com/milehigher. Like I kind of said, the church would want to keep this hidden, as his then miracles could have been a product of esoteric magic rather than the power of the Christian God. The gospel of peace apparently has Jesus' bloodline and lineage that, if tracked to this day, would render the Pope useless, which would be absolutely groundbreaking. It would also hurt the whole life of chastity thing if Jesus had a wife and kids, because that's always a big question too for people, is like, did Jesus ever marry? Did he ever fall in love? Did he ever experience being a parent? Mm-mm. Or did he just kind of live this life of solitude and he's just on this mission and he never... Because it's especially being a parent now, you realize being a parent is one of the greatest joys and fulfilling things that you can do as a human being. And the love that you feel for your child, it's you would think Jesus would want to experience that as a human, in human form as well. But there's no record of that whatsoever. And I'm sorry if my Bible knowledge is not great. It's been many years since I've read the Bible cover to cover. I believe the way that the Bible tells the story of Jesus in the New Testament is that he specifically did not do any of those things whatsoever. He was celibate, I believed, and was very much just cruising around with his apostles, performing miracles and spreading the word of God,
which could very well be the truth,
right?
Since that certainly aligns, but it's interesting to think if there was these parts of his life that were specifically left out to create a specific narrative.
Understanding more how his miracles were actually done, because the way that we read it and perceive in the Bible is that because he is the Son of God, he just has these abilities to manifest things in the physical realm. But is it possible that he was using some type of esoteric knowledge, ancient magic, rituals, or something along those lines to actually perform those types of miracles as they're called in the Bible? But again, absolutely have no idea. This is all just speculating. The Vatican Secret Archives reportedly also has evidence of extraterrestrials and alien technology, which I'm sure we've mentioned once or twice on this show over the years. And for one, they reportedly hold the original writings of Giordano Bruno, which Kendall mentioned to us before the show that this reminds us of another episode we've done.
Yep, Bruno Borges. One of the first things I covered on my channel years ago, probably, I think before we were even
in the
married.
Ancient times, yeah.
Yeah, probably at least 8 years ago. But such an interesting story.
The disappearance of Bruno Borges. Yeah.
He did return, but he had created this entire room filled with these writings, and he had a statue, I believe, of Giordano Bruno.
Yep.
Probably because, his work with aliens and all of that kind of connected back to Bruno's beliefs.
Yep. Well, I think he really idolized him and looked up to him.
Yeah, to say the
was
least.
Kind of like trying to be him in a sense. But
yeah, which that whole thing ended up being a big hoax.
Right. Which was unfortunate because it's such a crazy
elaborate
story.
Hoax. It was just interesting to look at.
Yeah, if
you haven't heard of that one,
story.
Either look up our coverage or just type in his name, and it was big around like 2016, 2017, something like that. Yeah, interesting.
Remember we were watching that Disney movie?
Oh my God, it was so fun. I just have to tell that story. We went to the Encanto, and Josh
in theaters.
Josh took a few hits. Or did you take edibles or something?
Yeah, I took some gummies.
I was pregnant, so I couldn't partake. But Josh was wigging. He was like fully losing his mind.
I took way too much, and I forgot how intense it is to sit in a theater.
He was like tripping about the movie, the colors. Like I looked over at him, he looked like he was gonna throw up.
The beginning of the movie, I was like, I might have to get up and leave. This is too intense, too crazy.
And if you haven't seen the movie, there's this. The whole plot is that their
house is magic.
The house is magic, and then one of their family members, Bruno, like lives within the house, and he's been missing. And when that starts unfolding, and there's this secret Bruno character, Josh is like, "Oh my God, this is about Bruno Borges. This is all based on."
As soon as I heard the song, "We don't talk about Bruno, no," I was like,
"Oh,
no way, this is Bruno Borges." I like turned over to him like, "This is crazy," and you're like, "What? No,
dude, no."
Maybe though, I don't know. Maybe Disney's
good times. They got
loosely based it off of Bruno.
I don't think so.
Crazy. But anyways, Giordano Bruno, he was a 16th century philosopher and poet, among the first to speculate publicly about life on other planets. In the 16th century, imagine sitting around, I don't know what they sat around, a campfire, piece of stone. I don't know what they used to do back then. I don't know.
They were just sitting. Sitting did exist.
I always wonder, what the hell did they do back then in 16th century? Just like paint, scribe.
Dude, they were probably so much more creative than us.
Run around.
What do we do? Sit around and watch reality TV and scroll TikTok?
But this guy was like, guys, look up. See all that out there? There's life out there.
And they're all like, all right.
There's other beings out there.
Maybe these dudes were on gummies.
Maybe that maybe look like us.
You've been
or maybe look like
bush.
Something else. Well, that's what a lot of people did not like what he was saying at all.
Of course not.
Because it the Catholic Church, it was the law of the land. This is like what you believe. This is, there's no questioning it. And he's over here like challenging the official beliefs and saying, no, there's no way we're the only ones here. We're the only intelligent life in the universe.
Which I think is an idea that like the majority of humans now accept, that there's no way that we're the only ones.
Well, it's interesting because that was always a big question for me, especially when I was deconstructing from Christianity. It was like, that was one of my questions with my pastor. I'm like, what about life elsewhere in the universe? And the Bible has no answers for that, really. Doesn't even really address it. And once you start, I got really into astronomy, and you start looking at just the vastness of the universe and how it's ever expanding and how many stars are out there and other suns with planets around it. You're like, what are the chances that we are the only intelligent life force here in the universe? Like, how is that possible?
I just personally think it's a super,
I guess technically idea. Since we don't know actually we have detected life elsewhere, but not intelligent life per se. I think that's just a crazy, on Mars they detected beneath the ice there's there's water, and I'm pretty sure they pretty much said there is some type of life, but intelligent life elsewhere that has a consciousness, things like that.
At least that's been reported. I think they know more.
Right. Well, anyways, back to Giordano Bruno. They didn't like what he was saying, and he ended up being burned at the stake in 1600. And it seems like it was more likely he was burned at the stake not because of the views on extraterrestrial life, but more so on his views of the afterlife and reincarnation. So they really just didn't like any of that, and they killed him for it. However, some theorize that the church used his early writings to study and contact aliens, and they actually know far more about extraterrestrial life than any other institution on the planet. because many people have pointed to early Catholic paintings and frescoes that seemingly depict tic-tac UFOs in the background of famous biblical scenes. We have an example to show you because this is pretty interesting to look at. So let's take a look. There is this painting here. So it looks like there's a bunch of people gathered in like almost like a courtyard area, and there's these big, which I think on first glance you might be like, okay, it's just clouds, but they look like little saucers.
And the way they're lined up too.
Especially the one on the far right there. Looks exactly like a Tic Tac UFO.
Yep.
So this particular painting is called The Miracle of the Snow, and it was painted between 1428 and 1432 in Rome, and it supposedly is depicting a moment in which snow mysteriously fell throughout Rome, and it was considered like an early miracle. But as you can see in the painting, it's like those don't really look like regular snow clouds.
And where's the snow falling? I don't see it. I see like a little like white on the ground, so I assume that's the snow that they're saying around.
Exactly. That's like supposed to be the itty bitty bit of snow that fell, but for the most part, it's all rolling green hills and these bizarre Tic Tac looking clouds.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with ancient astronaut theorists. Say no, these were UFOs.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with that too.
There's also some people out there that believe that the ancient remains of extraterrestrials are preserved within the Vatican secret archives, and they've been able to reverse engineer recovered alien technology. It was some years ago I ran across a whistleblower who claimed to have visited the secret archives and claimed to have seen alien technology and possibly areas that might have contained extraterrestrial bodies. Again, with whistleblowers, most of you have just no idea, no way to verify any of their claims. But I really kind of fell down that rabbit hole, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. If there's a place that they're going to store that, it seems like the secret archives within the Vatican are a pretty good spot. Either that or Area 51, right? For many years, people thought they were, all the remnants from Roswell were held there. S4 and Bob Lazar, that whole story is pretty interesting, but
very interesting.
But there's also one piece of reverse technology that's known as the legendary Chronovisor, an object that allowed the user to look back at any event in the past. It's kind of like a time traveling machine a little bit, but it's more so of like something you look into and view, and you're kind of seeing this wide angle of particular event in the past. And it's like, Ian, explain exactly how this works, because it's kind of, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
yeah, even after it's explained, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in the picture you see, there's the screen above that's supposedly where the like image from the past is being transmitted, and then underneath it, there's like this very strange drawing of what appears to be like a bunch of copper tubes and all these sorts of things. People believe that is where the reversed alien tech is, and it's through the specific wiring and materials used that certain like spiritual or magnetic imprints from time. Because when you make a sound, technically that sound exists forever until the end of time. So like this theory suggests that these tubes are able to actually pick up on not only those sounds that are still persisting, but also the images as well, and then transmitting it to the television. But because it's just picking up a bunch of different imprints from that moment, you can't be like, show me Jesus, like show me his face. It's more like, show me an image in which many people surrounded him.
Makes complete sense.
I won't lie, I'm a little lost on that.
That's okay. I mean, it's just a supposed blueprint. We don't know for sure if there's any legitimacy to this at all, but it's an interesting idea to say the least. So apparently, according to the theory behind this object, Father Pellegrino Ernetti supposedly built the Chronovisor in the early 1960s, along with the help of physicist Enrico Fermi, which I definitely talked about before as well, Fermi's paradox.
Yeah, I was going to say,
we have all these planets and all these things, but where's the aliens at? That's like Fermi's paradox.
Okay. I was going to ask if that was connected to Fermi's paradox.
And then the Drake equation's like, based on all the planets and everything that we have, it would make sense that there would be life elsewhere out in the universe. That's a very, very nutshell explanation. But him, along with a rocket scientist and who was also a Nazi at the time, Werner von Braun, and 10 other scientists supposedly created this device. Father Ernetti claimed to have witnessed the founding of the Roman Empire with it, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Which I'm like, how fuzzy was that picture? Like, how does he not know he was just looking at just a bunch of fuzz on the screen?
It's hard to believe.
So that'd be pretty crazy if he was able to see that. But yeah, then there's just some images there for you to take a look at. They're hoaxed images, it looks like. But still an interesting concept to think about. Maybe they do have some type of way to look into the past or, predict the future.
It's fun to ponder.
Yeah,
I don't believe
anything's
it, though.
possible.
It's true. But is anything really possible?
Yeah, that's what you should tell yourself.
Should I, though? Now, of course, the Vatican has denied the existence of such a device, and an unconfirmed deathbed confession from Ernetti may have labeled the whole thing as a hoax. When he first announced the device, a picture of Jesus that the Chronovisor reportedly took was placed in the magazine article. However, the photograph seemed to originate from a postcard, unfortunately, though Ernetti claimed that he had no approval over the use of that photo and denied that he had taken it. And this ruined any credibility of Ernetti's claims. But even if the Vatican doesn't possess any extraterrestrial knowledge, they have been very interested in our cosmic neighbors. Pope Francis said that he would baptize an alien because the Bible verse that labeled Jesus as King of the universe, not just Earth. So they believe that extraterrestrials, of course, are part of God's dominion.
I like that progressive approach.
I do too.
That's good. And they've really gotten on board with the extraterrestrial thing. Even recently, the Vatican just founded a new supernatural, I think it's like research group who is like solely focused on researching like the paranormal and supernatural events and things like that. And also this whole preparing ourselves for meeting aliens and like what they're going to do.
It seems like there's a lot of Catholics these days that are kind of turning a new leaf and trying to get with the times a little bit, to be a little bit more progressive. We were just talking to an AI bot.
Yes.
What was his name on the set?
Justin.
Justin.
Yes.
Who was Father Justin, but was demoted to just Justin because he was telling people to baptize their babies in Gatorade.
Yes.
So that was a big no. And he also said you can marry your brother.
Yes.
So that wasn't great. So it was actually interesting talking to him, though. He had some interesting claims about evolution, and it was very progressive.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I was open to
impressed with Justin.
I was too. Big fan. So yeah, we love to see some evolution.
Well, a lot of that's to the credit of Pope Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pope Francis is such an interesting person.
Yeah, he's really a G, right? We like him.
I think he's very open-minded for the Pope.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, and a lot of Catholics don't like him.
Oh.
Like our
Yes, that doesn't
like my
surprise me.
grandparents.
I was going to say, yeah, your grandparents not a
They
fan.
had a picture of Pope John Paul on their fridge for many years, but once he left, no picture of Pope Francis.
No, it wasn't on the fridge. It was framed up on the wall.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
There were other things on the fridge, which I won't forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen that Pope picture anymore. They just took it down and they're like, no,
No,
Pope Francis
I know.
does not need to be
Yeah,
here.
I know they've publicly told me that.
Publicly.
They're not big fans of
Aw.
Pope Francis.
Mm-mm. And I don't think a lot of Catholics are not, but a lot of Catholics are. I feel like it's taken them in a better direction. Now, what's interesting is they even have a telescope in Tucson, Arizona that many believe is actively searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. UFO whistleblower David Grush, who we have a whole episode on, claimed that an extraterrestrial craft crashed in Italy during the reign of Benito Mussolini, which we talked about that specifically in that episode as well. And the Italian government hid it within the Vatican's secret archives.
Yeah, didn't we talk about in that episode too, though, that they took it back to the U.S. though?
I think yes.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering.
Part of that story was that or maybe no. I'm sorry. That this was a later UFO incident that we covered. It wasn't the one that happened.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're
it
right.
was a more recent one.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
This one, which would be, I think, is like one of the very first UFO crash incidents in modern history.
Mm-hmm.
Because this happened before Roswell.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would have been in the 1930s.
Yeah, so Roswell was 47.
So despite the claims of the devil, angels, aliens living inside the Vatican walls, there is reportedly evidence of real-world evils hidden inside the secret archive, which would not be shocking. According to some, the Vatican owns the doctrine of discovery, the 16th century text written by the church that granted European nations rights to claim land in the newly discovered continents of North and South America. This document ushered in the age of colonization and is responsible for the untold death as the European settlers killed indigenous people to make way for expansion in, quote, the name of God. The church has also remained quiet on its actions during World War II, and many believe that the secret archive holds documents that incriminate the Vatican in helping Hitler engineer the Holocaust. Again, just a rumor, just a theory, but certainly interesting to think about. However, the third secret of Fatima is one of the most fascinating real-life documents said to be held in the Vatican Archives. Starting May 13th, 1917, 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, witnessed 6 apparitions of the Virgin Mary. The apparition revealed 3 secrets and told them to gather a massive crowd at the Cova de Iria to witness a miracle. On October 13th, between 30,000 and 100,000 people gathered at the spot mentioned by Mary in the rain. After a massive downpour, the clouds suddenly opened and revealed the sun. Though it didn't appear how the sun usually did, it looked like an opaque, spinning disk in the sky. And of course, many people said it was a UFO. The sun danced in the sky, zigzagging across the horizon while emitting multicolored rays. Sounds beautiful. When the sun finally settled back into normal position, the clothes of people who were in attendance, which were, of course, sopping wet originally due to the rain, were suddenly completely dry.
2 of the children died in 1919 and 1920 due to the Spanish flu epidemic, but one of the children, Sister Lucia, survived. She began publishing her memoirs in the mid-1930s, and in 1941, she revealed the first 2 secrets. The first was a vision of hell, a sea of fire and the groans of tortured souls. The second secret was a prophecy for the end of World War I, but she said a second would follow if the world kept offending God. The apparition said that the war would be, quote, presaged by night, illuminated by an unknown light. Then on January 25th, 1938, the aurora borealis was seen across North Africa, Bermuda, and California, and just a month later, Hitler seized Austria. Many also believe that this light could be about the atomic bomb, and Mary just got the order wrong. However, Lucia kept the third secret hidden, and it was given to the Vatican for safekeeping. She said it could be revealed in 1960, though the church did not follow through and kept its message hidden. Then on May 13, 1981, the anniversary of the first apparition, Pope John Paul II was shot twice by Mehmet Ali Agca. The Pope survived and curiously made a pilgrimage to Fatima, Portugal, once he was released from the hospital. He ended up befriending Mehmet and had him pardoned in 2000, and Mehmet even converted to Catholicism in 2007. Many believe that this had to do with that third secret that they've been safekeeping. And on June 26, 2000, their suspicions were confirmed when the Vatican released a secret. The 4-page document prophesies the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II and a vision of the crucifixion of Jesus. However, many within the church believe that this is not the whole secret and that there's an additional page that outlines the apocalypse. The Vatican does not wish to release it as it would cause widespread panic. Sister Lucia died on February 13, 2005 at the age of 97, and after this, her room was barred from entry for fear that she would potentially reveal the full secret from her deathbed. She was declared a saint by Pope Francis on June 22, 2023. To sum it all up, the Vatican Secret Archives is basically a real-life Pandora's box. Name a mystical artifact, and someone will claim it's hidden deep within the church. Sure, there's things of incredible magnitude that are kept inside, but we'll probably never know the full extent of its contents. And for all we know, maybe there really is an angel and even the devil himself chained inside.
Together.
With that being said, let's move on to our last, and probably one you've been waiting for a while, the Library of Alexandria. What happened to it? We've teased this topic for a long time on the show, and Ancient writings on the library boasted a massive complex in Hellenistic Egypt that compiled the total of the world's knowledge within its halls. The fact that the library has never been discovered and nobody actually knows what happened to it has inspired thousands of people to theorize about what was hidden within its walls. Unfortunately, modern scholarship on the library has revealed less glamorous aspects of the complex than we previously thought. So for clarity's sake, we're going to talk about the agreed upon historical facts of the library before moving on to more of the legends of what knowledge was lost with its destruction. It's important to note that there was massive libraries established throughout the ancient world. The Assyrian library at Nineveh was established in the 7th century BC and included clay tablets of the Epic of Gilgamesh. When the library was burned down, many of its clay records were actually fired and preserved to this day. The ancient Hittites in modern-day Turkey buried massive archives across the region that preserved early writings of the Hebrew Bible, pagan religions of the surrounding area, and esoteric rituals otherwise lost to time. Due to this practice, the Hittites were considered one of the world's first societies of historians. Now, these libraries and collections were already ancient when Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. Alexander conquered most of Europe, the Near East, and Egypt before establishing his capital, Alexandria, in northern Egypt for the Greek Empire. Following his death, his empire was split between his closest advisors, all of whom would build cultural centers to assert dominance within the Greek world. The Ptolemies took control of Egypt, and Ptolemy I sought to create a capital city in Alexandria that would rival even Athens on the mainland. The city was built on a grid that even modern cities modeled their construction off of, and the massive lighthouse of Alexandria became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. While it's unclear which leader actually created the Library of Alexandria, Ptolemy I wanted a library to store the entirety of the known world's knowledge. He thought this would be a massive flex on Athens and force the other Greek leaders to recognize the cultural dominance of Hellenistic Egypt. The library was either constructed during the reign of Ptolemy I between 323 and 283 BC, or his son Ptolemy II between 283 and 246 BC. What's interesting is that we don't even know what the library actually looked like. Later writings described it as resembling something built by King Solomon. So if you look it up, you're just seeing artist depictions of the Library of Alexandria. The library comprised 3 buildings on a shared campus in the city's royal quarter, and the library itself, Museion, and Serapeum, which was later built as a sister institution to the library, and we actually found those ruins. So we know that the Serapeum actually existed. We just haven't found the actual Library of Alexandria.
The Museion was known as the House of Muses, where at least 100 scholars gathered to discuss, research, and create new works based on the library's massive collection. Multiple confirmed inventions and discoveries written about having been made by scholars in the library include the original calculation of the circumference of the Earth, a complete study on the reproductive system and early surgery, the invention of the world's first steam engine, and an early version of a water pump. While scholars worked on new leaps in scientific discovery, the Ptolemies attempted to gather every piece of written knowledge in the world and copy it into Greek within the library's halls. This included original copies of the Hebrew Bible, indigenous Egyptian texts and artifacts, and legends from Mesopotamia and the Hittite libraries. Ptolemy III might have even raided the Great Library in Athens to bolster the Library of Alexandria, although this is unconfirmed, but would be pretty interesting if it were true. But because all of those records were written on scrolls of papyrus, an entire team of scholars dedicated their lives to copying text so they wouldn't be lost to time. In normal conditions, typical papyrus scrolls would last 50 years before damage began and 100 years before it just couldn't be saved at that point. This meant copying and archiving was essential to, of course, ensure the archive's longevity.
One of these copies was the original Hebrew Bible, which the Ptolemies found essential to be translated into Greek. They all got together on an island near Alexandria where dozens of scholars copied the text, which would go on to be used by Greek Jews and Christians for thousands of years. What's interesting is that this copy stressed the importance of King Solomon over Greek culture. Early artworks based on Greek Hebrew Bible pictured young Socrates and Aristotle in attendance at one of the famous scenes from Kings 1, where a woman begs to spare a child who will be split in two as 2 women claim to be its mother. Solomon declared that the begging woman was a true mother and spared the child's life. I remember that Bible story. And speaking of Aristotle and Socrates, their original works were kept in the library, and the lineage of their students continued their studies within the halls of the Museion for centuries. Ancient sources said that the library held 40,000 to 700,000 scrolls. However, modern calculations place that number in the 30,000s. For the ancient estimations to be correct, that would mean most of the library's collections were copies, or that 90% of the texts from the ancient world have never been found, which is absolutely insane to think about. If that is true, 90% of the texts from the ancient world are lost. Imagine what kind of knowledge we would have if we still had those. Unfortunately, by the reign of Ptolemy VIII, scholarship was seen as heretical and frivolous as the Roman Empire gained power. All foreign scholars were expelled between 170 and 124 BC, and those who remained were given positions within the library based on political power and just didn't give a shit about preserving its collection. And from then on, the library's fragile scrolls began to fall into disrepair. Which Ian brought up a good point before this, that this theory has been tested out. Like, how easy is it for papyrus scrolls to decay and fall apart?
Yeah, extremely easy. Kendall explained that came from a demonstration that this guy, he does the Esoterica YouTube channel. He's awesome, but he did a demonstration with a papyrus scroll he had copied just a few months ago, and the only thing he did with it was keep it on his desk. But even just being on his desk and picked up every once in a while, like, already got messed up. So if you left a scroll alone and didn't touch it for 50 years, there still would be damage. And if you didn't touch it for 100 years, it would literally be completely destroyed. In reality, it seemed like the library's destruction was like a pretty quiet one, you know?
So you didn't necessarily need a giant inferno to destroy everything.
No.
In dramatic fashion, but rather if it's not kept up with and preserved correctly, that it could just literally fall apart.
Exactly. Things would just basically disintegrate.
Yeah, I think that's a common misconception. I think a lot of people think that a scroll will just still be there, 1,000 years from now, when in actuality it would be gone.
Right.
In 48 BC, Julius Caesar invaded Alexandria, potentially lit fire to the library, which this is the most common theory that is out there, especially on TikTok and Reels and things like that. If you just search Library of Alexandria, this is like always the theory that comes up and is portrayed as, complete fact, which is just not the case. So it is possible this is one way the Library of Alexandria was destroyed, or a portion of it was destroyed. But this is unlikely because scholars wrote about visiting the library in the years following Caesar's reign. Natural disasters also plagued Alexandria, and its lighthouse had been destroyed by an earthquake years earlier. Under Roman control, the library was completely disregarded, and its collection was left to rot. There are stories that the library was officially destroyed by Caliph Umar in 642 AD, or several other invasions in the years before. But most likely, it seems like the library just slowly decayed and died over time, and its collection was liquidated or destroyed due to mismanagement and lack of care in the later stages of its existence.
It's quite boring compared to the other theories about it, I must say. But
right. Well, it's a much more fantastical
realistic
story to be like, yeah, Caesar came in there and said, fuck this library and all the knowledge in it, and we're just going to decimate it from the face of the earth. And
which we don't know for sure. A lot of this is
foggy.
Could
have been part of it, but there's literally writings of scholars visiting it after. So he clearly didn't, if it did happen, he didn't absolutely wipe it out. There wasn't it wasn't just like a pile of ash that the scholars visited. So,
and it seems like the like depictions of the library being completely burned to the ground was mainly just propaganda. Like, Caesar was the most popular ruler in the known world at that point, so it would make sense for someone to write like, yeah, and he's such an evil person who disregards knowledge that he burned down the library. And then the same thing happened with the early Arabian Empire too. They became the most powerful, and so the same.
Now that guy did it.
Exactly.
It makes sense when you hear it that way, for sure. But now that we've gone through all the agreed upon facts, we can talk about some of the crazier items rumored to have been stored within the Library of Alexandria. So for some, the destruction of the library set humanity back at least 1,000 years, and it possibly contained knowledge of witchcraft, the power to harness electricity, summon demons, connect with extraterrestrials, how the Egyptians built the pyramids. I know that's a big theory out there that a lot of people point to, and boy, would I love to know the answer to that question. But in 587 or 586 BC, the Babylonians destroyed the Temple of Solomon when they invaded and ended the kingdom of Judah. According to legend, not only was the temple built with the assistance of demons King Solomon used magic to control, but it also was constructed in such a way that its specifications allowed for increased physical connections with the spiritual world. Inside was possibly the Ark of the Covenant, which has been described as many things. Just, could have been simple religious artifact or a literal super weapon, or like some of you can theorize it was like some type of electric generator of some sort. There's lots of theories about the Ark of the Covenant. So according to the legend, the Babylonians brought the Ark, blueprints for the temple, and Solomon's writings on demonology back to their capital. And when Alexander the Great captured Babylon in 331 BC, it's rumored that he brought the Ark and Solomon's various magic artifacts back to his city of Alexandria. The library was supposedly built in the image of Solomon's temple to allow communication with demons and angels from within the library, and the Ark was stored inside. Still, perhaps his influence over the Hellenistic Bible translated Alexandria as evidence of his artifacts being preserved in the Library of Alexandria. King Solomon, we've talked a little bit about him earlier, but he's credited with writing the following books of the Hebrew Bible, including Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. And if Alexander discovered Solomon's original texts, which were later compiled into the Bible, it would make sense that the Greek historians would want to paint their most famous figures as infants in the king's presence, referring to Socrates and Aristotle. But before we move forward, we want to note that the Ark of the Covenant is believed to exist still and is safeguarded in the city of Axum in Ethiopia. And maybe we can explore the Ark of the Covenant and its theories a little bit more in a future episode. But not all of Alexandria's legendary artifacts have been lost to time. So now let's talk about ancient Egyptian artifacts. Some believe that the Great Pyramids were created as archives of powerful artifacts, some of them being extraterrestrial. According to this theory, Alexander the Great also raided pyramids and emptied them of their powerful artifacts. These included the 12 jewels of Atlantis crystal skulls that the Atlanteans gifted to the Egyptians in order to harness spiritual power and electrify ancient Egypt. Which, if you want more information, that's like a whole other episode. And we actually have an Atlantean episode. We have an ancient Egypt episode. I think the Atlantean episode would be a great one to learn more about that whole story. But very, very interesting. So suppose Alexander had the library built in the image of the Temple of Solomon. In that case, it's possible that the sacred geometry of the library's architecture activated the crystal skulls and actually powered Alexandria with electricity, which is very interesting to think about. Then there's the Chronos Codex, an esoteric text supposedly written by ancient mystics before civilization as we know it was ever created. Apparently, it's a bound book comprising of a repository of spells, prophecies, and future chronologies that spread through existence. Though the book has only ever been rumored, some have speculated that it was housed inside of the Library of Alexandria and allowed for inventions created within its halls. Man, if that does really exist and we found that, that'd be just...
Seriously.
New York Times bestseller right there.
Definitely.
That'd be such an interesting read. I mean, there's so many questions about ancient civilizations. I mean, we had Graham Hancock on the show, and he's a big proponent that there was an advanced civilization 12,000 years ago that was wiped out by a comet that existed before basically all the way that history is written right now. And a lot of that knowledge has been lost. But it's very interesting to think about. There's a lot of historians that refute everything Graham Hancock says and claim it's all hogwash, but it's very interesting to think about at the very least. But that leads us to another one of my favorite people in history, 20th century spiritualist Edgar Cayce, which my grandparents were big believers in.
Still is.
Yeah.
Your grandfather's still alive. He was Edgar's biggest fan.
He claims that he was healed by Edgar Cayce, I believe.
He always tells us a story about how he healed his tooth.
Yeah. Very interesting.
I don't know, but...
Edgar Cayce also known as the sleeping prophet, very interesting individual. He introduced the concept of the Akashic records or Akashic records. I think we've even talked about this on the show in the past, but it's basically a spiritual storehouse of every event, emotion, person in the universe, all the knowledge. And he claimed that while the records could be accessed through clairvoyance, physical storehouses of the records existed in several physical locations on Earth, including the lost city of Atlantis, as well as a hidden chamber underneath the Great Sphinx in Egypt, which we do know, and I know Graham Hancock's been to Egypt many times, and he also confirmed this, and scientists have confirmed that there is a hidden chamber that they've detected beneath the Sphinx, but Egyptologists won't allow anybody to go in and look at it because they're worried about, obviously, a big tourism item for them is the Sphinx and the pyramids. They don't want to dig it up or cause damage to it, so they won't go in there and see what's in this chamber, but the fact that there is a chamber that exists there is very interesting. And if it does hold the Akashic records, that would be insane. And wish we'd go in there and get them, but guess we'll have to just wait and see. Maybe one day. So according to some, either Caesar or Caliph Umar destroyed the library to rid the world of these supernatural artifacts. However, others claim the Romans burned down the library in a false flag operation to keep its contents hidden forever. According to them, the only documents destroyed were the thousands of scrolls containing records of what was kept inside. And those artifacts were hidden until they were safeguarded within the Vatican secret archives. That is so interesting to think about.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
Those scrolls be preserved in the Vatican archives. God,
I feel like
the Vatican holds all the secrets to the fucking universe.
I would not be shocked, man.
And we don't know about it.
It's frustrating doing these types of topics and taking like a real, evidentiary approach to it and really trying to stick to the facts as we know them, because I feel so much has been hidden from us. And there's a reason why we don't have any valid sources claiming anything otherwise, because it has been so secret and protected that I think there's a lot more than they want us to know.
We know for a fact that they hide things.
Yeah.
And the only thing I think of is they don't want us to see these things, because if they are true, it will reshape our entire lives or ways of thinking. It will make people move away from their belief systems or evolve their belief systems in a different way that's probably better for society, honestly.
Yeah.
And those in control, those in power and rule from this fear-based system, it will be obsolete. We won't need all of these spiritual leaders anymore. We won't need people telling us what to believe or
to connect spiritually.
Right, exactly, because we'll know the truth about it and that it's all a sham. It's all just
maybe.
It makes me really sad sometimes knowing that we don't know this. Bothers me a lot, One, trying to seek the truth about the nature of everything, and I don't think I'll ever get there. I'm starting to realize.
Yeah,
unfortunately, especially when you believe one thing for so long in your life, and that became such a backbone to my existence, and to have that no longer be there, and now I have like this void
you're trying to fill.
And like I've adjusted to kind of like this, I don't know, in this unknown, but it still bothers me. Like subconsciously, I feel like I just yearn for knowledge and yearn for like answers to all these questions. I think we all do.
Yeah, I do to some degree. I don't have that void the way that you do where it like bothers me and keeps me up at night. I would love to know the secrets of the universe. And
I just really want to know if magic is real, if all this mysticism from the ancient civilizations and cultures is true. Like there's truth to it. Like is there a magical realm to all this? Like is there a way that we can, do certain things that can then make things happen in a different plane of existence or a different dimension, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I tend to lean that way, but it's also because that's what I want to believe.
Well, I mean, it's kind of going back to the idea of like manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in that, or law of attraction or something like that?
I do for the most part. Yeah.
So you could argue that's a form of mysticism and magic in a way. Like you're creating your own reality. You're manifesting these things in your life.
Mm-hmm. I think there's deeper spiritual meanings and practices that we don't know about that I do feel confident in that. It's hard when there's not concrete explanations or proof of a lot of it, but there's some compelling evidence and theories, and it's tough line to walk between trying to
I think the biggest thing is facing the alternative that life is meaningless and we're just these flesh vehicles roaming the planet with no purpose, no reason for being here other than it all happened by chance. And we're just on this planet to live and die, and that's the end of it.
I don't know. Even if that is the case, I think that there is still purpose in our lives. But
is that purpose created by ourselves? Like that's our own
No, I don't
psyche
think so.
Creating that?
I mean,
to make ourselves feel important?
No, I think even if the purpose is as simple as your purpose here on Earth is to experience life and have fun, I think there is a meaning to life. Maybe it's not
to have fun.
Maybe.
To give yourself the best experience.
Yeah, I think maybe
joy
is,
and happiness
that is the
and
purpose
love.
of life. Yeah,
which I would argue that joy, love, happiness are all things worth living for.
Yeah.
Those are great feelings to have.
So I believe that
They're
we
powerful.
have purpose no matter what, whether it's as deep as.
But but that only takes you to the end. Then what? What was the point of all that joy, happiness,
I
and
think
love
there's more
if
to
it
that.
all ends after that?
I don't think it just ends. But that's just my personal
Right.
belief.
That's what I'm saying. But
obviously it's kind of wishful
That's where I'm
thinking,
at now. But there's a lot of people that think like that. And for me, that's such a hard thing to deal with that this is all just for the current ride. And then the ride's over and it goes back to how we are before we're born.
See, I'm comfortable with that. I'd be completely
nothingness.
It's honestly comforting to me.
Dealing with nothingness.
If the only purpose
you ever think about that,
is
Janelle? Nothingness?
Yeah.
Every day. Janelle has an existential crisis over death every day.
My worst fear in life is us just going into the dirt and that's it.
And it's just black. Yeah, lights out forever.
Which I always say, I'd like to think there's more, but I also am very skeptical, and I do have thoughts of what if this is literally it, and what's the purpose?
Do you consider the possibility that there is a creator or some type of God or?
Yeah, not in the traditional sense. I don't believe there's some dude in white up in
not in the
clouds,
a religious sense, but more of
but I believe that. I guess if I were to believe of any sort of quote unquote creator, it would be some type of universal energy. That's more kind of what I would subscribe to, versus a specific being, But,
yeah, I definitely lean that way too.
I don't know. I don't know what I really believe.
If we really do go in the ground at the end and that's it, does that mean that our life had no purpose?
No, I think it just makes me sad because it's so. The finality of it is so intense, and it makes me sad thinking the people that have passed or the people that will pass that I love in my life. It makes me it brings me more comfort to be oh, well, their spirit lives on or whatever, versus just that's it.
Yeah, I guess it comes out of comfort too, because my beliefs lean towards life continuing in some capacity, whether or not we know what that looks like. But I think if it doesn't, then it doesn't mean that this was for nothing. I think love and experiences and, affecting other people's lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, truly, I've said it a million times, but at the end of the day, for me, I really think that life is about the soul's evolution and that we go on.
So reincarnation.
Maybe to some degree. I don't know if we straight up reincarnate, come back as humans, but I think our soul evolves and moves on and maybe is in other capacities that we can't understand now as humans. I definitely don't think we are the most important beings in the universe, so maybe get to upgrade to something better.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting topic. What do you think, Ian?
Frankly, I like the idea of just classic style reincarnation. I think that really helps me deal with a lot of things, because I like the idea of having certain karmas in this life that are so impactful that they carry on in another way to answer for in the next life, which is cool. But at the end of the day, also, if I were to die tomorrow and it's just hole in the ground, blackness, nothing, the fact of the matter is even in this short life that I've lived, it's felt like I've lived many different lives already. You feel like you're I've been an angel and a demon, I've done
totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that even
constantly evolving.
Yeah. Even if that is it, I love the idea of coming back in some other form. That's epic. But even if not, it's cool. You are 1,000 different people in your life. And so that alone is kind of worth it, I think.
That's an interesting way to put it. I've never really thought about that. The theory of evolution is right before our eyes. We are constantly evolving as beings.
But is that
on a weekly basis?
But is that just your ego? What are you without your ego? What are we without our ego? We're all talking about our egos right now. So if you remove the ego, then what are you?
I got to say, I also think, at least, I think it's impossible to live without an ego, but I've lived with less of one for certain.
Yeah, that's what we're all striving for, right? Is to let go of the ego.
Right.
But I don't think you're supposed to, because then you have no motivation to live. I would think.
Literally,
to some degree.
in that period of time, I literally had no motivation to do a fucking thing. I just didn't care. And
I've been there too.
Yeah, and there's peace in that. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of nice just to wake up and be like, I don't give a shit, you know, like fuck me, but
definitely.
You know, I think it's how, like, even this search for knowledge, which at the end of the day, like, if you do know everything that's ever happened in the universe, you probably are going to be humbled to a certain degree.
Oh, yeah.
And lose your entire sense of ego. But even wanting to lose your ego is like an expression of ego itself. So I think that is like a point, you know, in and of itself. I don't know. I'm just I'm just yapping here. But
I love it. I love when you yap. Super interesting. But yeah, Janelle, I mean, I'm sure I know the idea of the end just being nothing. I'm sure people have said to you, do you remember what it was like before you were born?
Right. Like, well, you won't know. If you randomly die, you won't know. I'm like, yeah.
Is it more the fear of dying before you've done enough in this world, or like the missing people who have passed on, or missing people once you've passed
really
on?
Know what? I couldn't pinpoint it exactly. It doesn't seem like I'm like, oh, I have all these things I want. I have goals, obviously, but I'm not over here like, if I can't mark them off my list, then what was the point? It's not really that. And I don't know exactly what it is. I try and figure that out every day. I just have this intense phobia of the unknown. And also I know that I like being in control and like having the answers, because it helps with anxiety. Most people who, I mean, humans in general like being in control, and you have no control over what happens when you're gone. So
yeah, that's like a reason why I've always been somewhat jealous of people that are part of an organized religion, because they are so confident in what they believe that it is fact to them.
And it, you know, when you talk to people who really do believe, like, yes, I fully believe that my loved ones go to heaven, when they die, it gives them some type of comfort. And I'm envious many times of those people, because it's like, wow, not that it's easier for them, but they really do believe like, oh, this isn't the end for them. I'll meet them again in heaven. Whereas like there are people in my life where I truly feel like I wouldn't, oh, this makes me want to cry. There are people in my life that I feel like I would not be able to live without. And so the thought of like them not being here, I don't know, then like, what am I, almost, in a sense?
I have more, that's a deep thought. I have more fear about losing others than myself dying.
Yeah. My fear of death, I'm scared of dying, obviously, because I don't know what happens. But the thing that keeps me up at night is like other people dying. That's what gets me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've really never, I don't want to say I've never feared death. Of course, every human has like some fear, but I've never like worried much about what will happen to me or stressed that much about it until I had a child and realized that when I'm gone, she won't have me anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what really bothers me.
Yeah.
Is like there'll be a time, hopefully, where she's living and I'm not here.
Right.
And now I'm going to cry.
Isn't that like, in theory, like that's how it's supposed to go, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, yeah, you worry like, well, what the hell is she going to do without you? Which is very egotistical.
Or to think of like that I would miss out on parts of her life. That like really fucks me up.
No, absolutely.
Are you crying too, Ian?
I accidentally
wow, this went.
So I accidentally rubbed vape juice in my eye. That's what's happened.
Okay, all right. Vapes in the eye.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here. We definitely want to hear your thoughts on all of this. And let us know if you guys want to see more episodes like this. I know we do these far and few between these days. Because to be honest, it seems like the majority of our audience really gravitates much more towards the true crime. And so we want to obviously do what our audience likes, but we really enjoy these types of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I just started us off on this direction, because this is what Mile High is at a core.
Yeah,
is going deep and
Ian, are you okay?
Thinking about things outside the box and wiping vape juice out of our eyes. So that's gonna be it for us today. We'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe, follow wherever you're watching or listening. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys. We love you all.
But we'll see you next time.
Until then, keep on taking your mind a mile higher. Almost forgot the outro.